Okay, well, good day, everybody, and thank you for joining Astadia today. Today we will be discussing best practices, strategies, and tactics for breaking through email conversion walls. This is the second part of a two-part series. We'll review the ideas that we covered in part one today, but please remember that a recorded version of part one is available on the Astadia website. And shortly after the conclusion of this event, we will send you links to both webinar recordings so you can share what you've learned with the others in your company. My name is Greg Root, and I will be your host for the next hour. I've been focused on technology marketing for the past 30 years. And like many of you, I've spent most of my career in large companies, including Cisco, Avaya, Motorola, and Unisys. So having walked in your shoes for many years, I fully appreciate why you're here today. Corporate marketing in technology sector is a very difficult job. Our speaker and subject matter expert today is Chris Bezjan. And with that, Chris, I'll ask you to introduce yourself and take over.
Thanks, Greg. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As Greg said, my name is Christopher Bezjan. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing Technology here at Astadia. And I've spent over 17 years in the CRM and marketing space in various industries, focusing on lead generation, business operations, and my favorite, the one-to-one philosophy of knowing and understanding your customers' wants and needs, all while adjusting to processes and workflows to help address efficiencies and, of course, ROI. I've included my email and LinkedIn profile information here for your reference as well. So again, welcome, and what we want to cover today is here in our agenda. We've got a small section about us, Astadia, and then we'll move on to why your email conversions may have hit a plateau. We'll be reviewing Astadia's email marketing maturity model, and then we'll be talking about list building, some explicit and implicit data points, talk about content, some mobile pieces, and testing. So Astadia's core competencies focus on the enterprise journey to the cloud, addressing the needs of both the CMO and the CIO through leading discussions around their digital strategy and technology, while also understanding legacy systems via software and infrastructure services. And looking at the numbers, here you can see that Astadia has done over 6,000 cloud engagements and over 1,000 completed integrations and over 900 marketing automation projects. So I think it's safe to say that we definitely have some experience when it comes to marketing automation. As you can see here, this is a list of our Astadia's clients and the various industries where we've worked in. So now we're going to talk about reviewing why your email conversions may have hit that plateau. Based on the questions that were asked and the responses we received when you registered, we developed today's content based on the top 3 results, which, as you can see, are in line with part 2 of our series here, the contact data, list building, and mobile. We'll review a little bit of the other 3 topics a bit. However, they were covered in more in depth in part 1, which you can view by visiting our website for more information. And as Greg said, we'll be sending out a link when this broadcast is over. So why have your email conversions, why may have they hit a plateau? You're sending, more than likely, you're sending way too many emails, and the messages are not as relevant as they should be. And you're competing with marketing automation tools that are now required and resulting in higher percentages of relevant content that you're fighting for attention. People are also less tolerant with disconnected conversations. They want, or rather expect, that you remember them and their conversations and where they left off. The question, why am I still getting the same email even though I already made the purchase, often comes up. And remember, mobile is now the first screen. You need to be sure your recipients can see your message, otherwise it's straight to the trash. And chances are you're still sending too much hype about who you are and any new tools that you might have, and not enough help So the information that could actually be used and put to use is very important. And your customers want to know you can help them. So you need to make sure that you're managing those customer expectations. And there are likely multiple reasons and challenges as you go through. And now that brings us to our email marketing maturity model. And that is why it's important to understand where you fit in this email marketing maturity model. So each challenge listed here has a different approach. And although all we want to, in the end we want to be in the winner column, chances are you're still in the process of needing to crawl, walk, and run before you can get there. Some of you may have already declared yourself a winner in certain areas. However, there's always room to improve. So for instance, how are you using online and offline data when building segments? Are you using responsive email templates, and are they optimized so they can adjust to the recipient's screen and device? Are you able to dynamically build and use your content based on who the end user is and what profile or persona they fit? So when we begin to align behaviors to channels and devices, in part one of the series we covered this and a few other pieces that we're going to review now. So I want to begin to help you understand and to align the behaviors to both channels and devices, such as in-store purchases, call centers regarding service requests or questions about specific products or services, mobile applications, web inquiries or responses, laptop and desktop content, social listening, all allowing you to have continuous and cohesive and connected and, more importantly, intelligent conversations. We also want to talk about leveraging data matching services to help map those behaviors and identities. So data matching services are in the business of matching information from different systems to the same customer ID. They do this through an elaborate process of stitching those IDs and mapping across different sections, allowing you to use your first-party data such as demographic and sales and CRM data to build those audiences and those audience segments for online campaigns, while also connecting online and offline and second and even third-party data to understand where and how the user started their journey, either online or in-store, or ultimately where they ended up purchasing. It creates and collects the IDs and takes the data and information and stitches it together across these devices and channels. It then strips out any PII or the personal identifiable information and can then be used in data management platforms, DMPs, which we will discuss in a few minutes and will certainly can help with like modeling while also increasing conversion rates by using what else but your data, your customer data, and to help tailor the content for websites, email campaigns, and online ads. But one of the things that we want to talk through here is that every email goes through the same evaluation process when it's received. And it takes ultimately 1.5 seconds, sometimes less, to go through this process. And first, when that email is received, the first thing you look at is, who's it from? Is it someone I know, or is it from someone I don't know? And if it's from someone I don't know, chances are it's going to get rejected. However, if it's someone I know or I'm familiar with, I might accept that email. And then I'm going to look at the next piece, which is going to be the subject line. And that subject line, again, if it makes sense to you, or if it doesn't, you're going to reject it. If it does, you'll accept that, and you'll move on to the next criteria, which is, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What's the call to action here? So, again, if it's something that I think is relevant, I may accept it, or if it's not, I'm going to reject it. I'm going to go right to the trash. And finally, what's the sense of urgency here? Is it something I can deal with later and put it in my folder and maybe get to it? Or is it something that I need to take action right now? So take a good look at your last email campaign and how does it fit in this process. So again, content needs to help the recipient. So a few best practices here. It should always allow users to pick up where they left off, not start from the beginning every time. Less call to actions and too many different links or images stating different offers to click on gets very confusing, not only to the recipient, but also when it comes time to reporting what worked and what didn't. Bottom line is one and done. Don't make it too confusing. So some testing best practices, which we covered, and there are a few guidelines and best practices to remember when you're testing. And be sure to understand what and why you are testing. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So test elements one at a time so you know for sure that one variant performed better than the other. As far as timing, you only need 48 hours to understand your results. Again, most of us have good intentions to test, yet never have enough time baked into campaign processes or are not sure what to test.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, can I interrupt for just a moment?
Sure.
When you say you're not sure what to test, do you have a recommended hierarchy of, email components that you should be testing? Is it more important to test the subject line, the pre-header, text? What would you recommend as a sequence of testing?
Well, actually, Greg, the best thing to do there is to look back. If we go back a few slides, we talk through how your emails are evaluated. These are the very areas where you want to test: the from, the subject line, the call to action, and is it urgent? These will allow you to make multiple tests and multiple variants. A/B testing of these actions here will help you in the long run.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. So as I go forward here real quick, I think the next piece where we wanted to be on was list building. So something that I wanted to point out to everybody, this is some email list size. Bigger is not always better. So this is something that ReturnPath had done a study going back when Sanders and Clinton and Trump were all in it together up against each other. And if you look here, the email list size for Clinton and Sanders was quite large, while Trump was certainly lagging. However, if you look at the opens that compared the two, or the three, excuse me, where you had Clinton and Sanders, their open rates were lower, much lower, certainly than Trump's. So talking of your list, just because you have a large list doesn't mean you're going to get that response, because now we start talking about list quality. So do we have the right contacts? Am I getting the right information? Is it old, stale, outdated, or is it new and refreshed and updated? Another case study here, quick, that I can take you through is someone who purchases a list. So as you can see here, in 2014, there was a total emails delivered were 237,000, almost 240,000 emails. And in 2015, there were over 1.5 million emails that were delivered. So one was a homegrown list and one was a purchase list. So the volume increased by over 563%. So at the same time, you can look at the Contact Me or Contact Us form submissions. In 2014, there were 508 that were collected, versus 2015, there were only 418. So again, as the list grew, we didn't get those, or the client did not get those conversions that they were looking for, and decreased.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
sure.
Does that kind of point back to, your 1.5 second test, and you said that the number one issue is, does the recipient of the email know who you are? And when you buy a list, you may be sending to people who don't know who you are, and therefore they reject it. Is that
exactly
what you think is going on?
Yeah, no, exactly. There's definitely that aspect of it. More than likely, the individuals that have no idea or no affiliation to you. So therefore, you have to earn their trust. You have to get them to understand and want to work with you and understand your product and or services. So it's important to nurture them in that process. So again, some of the pitfalls here of list purchases, it's you have that high degree of bounces. So people are coming in and they don't know you. It's an old email address. so it's going to bounce. And then there's also this negative reputation that's coming in, where that's impacting your delivery. And then at the same time, it's going to decrease your conversions and skew those metrics. As you can see here in 2015, list size was small, but in 2016, you still had that original list size plus the purchased list. And then you can see here that the conversions in 2015 were 3.25%, whereas in 2016 it's 1.18%. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit more, Greg, on your question and why these list purchasing is probably not the best solution.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Great, thanks. So some list building strategies that we certainly want to make sure that you take advantage of is making sure that you leverage your website traffic and those anonymous visitors and get them to register, give you that information. And it doesn't have to be done with a huge form, because what you want to make sure you can do is you can reduce and eliminate that form friction, as they call it, so that when people are coming to your site and you're asking them for their email address, chances are that they're going to start making that commitment in small increments. So as soon as you ask for an email address, the next time they come back, you ask for a little bit more, and the next time a little bit more, and sure enough, you've got that relationship building with that individual, and you're gaining and reconfirming information as it's coming in. Another thing to be sure to leverage DMP platforms. We talked about the data management services. Now we talk about the data management platforms here. This here is a great way for you to take first, second, third party and offline and online data, put it into the DMP from all your various systems, where it's going to unify your data and help you to build the right audience so that you can then push that data out and use it with search, email, display ads, social, mobile, and websites. The DMP solutions can be used for both B2B and B2C. So it allows you to target your media to contacts that you don't have an email address for. You can reduce your spending by removing current customers from your list and identify your best and worst customers and performers through building lookalike modeling and personalizing and optimizing your website, making it even more impactful by creating and using dynamic content and building and using attribution modeling to help in the monetization of your data. Looking at list building analysis, you want to make sure that you definitely leverage your lead source fields. And it's important to understand that there's a lead source original and there's the lead source most recent. The lead source original, you never update once it's populated. That's where your contact came from originally. And then that lead source most recent is always getting updated for every campaign that they're added to. So you want to make sure that you have those two fields identified and being populated so that you can have more accurate analysis moving forward. And don't forget about building and leveraging your social channels. You want to make sure that you use these, because most refer to a friend or colleague campaigns have already been replaced by social. So be sure to leverage these and provide access to help share your content. So a free tip here, we like to give these from time to time, is a B2B email address lookup tool. Email Hunter, if you look here at emailhunter.co, it allows you to and helps you to verify an email address and its deliverability. And it also helps you identify personal or generic emails and even download your results in a CSV file. So moving on to explicit data, it's important to understand explicit data, because when you're dealing with the explicit data, and again, that's the data that is given and collected most often in forms, so it's important to be able to connect any siloed data sources that you may have, while also looking to add additional data through the use of progressive forms, and in doing so, always trying to personalize and capture scoreable criteria while also standardizing the data to help in reporting and scoring models. Explicit data should also be leveraged to help in building and understanding lookalike models of your best customers.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you talk
Sure.
about your owned data sources, but you mentioned that it could be siloed. Where would it be siloed? Like,
So you've got a lot of different systems. Your accounting systems, you've got that aren't connected to your CRM systems, that's not connected to your marketing platform. And so you've got all of these various systems. And again, that's where we talked about the DMP and allowing that, that information, first, second, third-party data and other systems to come together and be leveraged accordingly and identified and grouped so that you can then leverage that data to build these like modeling.
okay. All right, so some of those silos might be your call center, your help desk, your perhaps a repair depot if you're a hardware type company.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
A lot of different areas.
Okay.
Yep, and so some of the things that you also want to do is take advantage of is these data append services that allows you to, just a few of them here that allow you, to, again, to help enrich your existing data so that you can make better and more informed decisions on how best to segment and address client needs. So one system may only have email, first name, last name, and company, and you don't have additional information or you want demographic information. That's where the data append services are going to come into play. And some of the things that you can do now, first and foremost, would be to work with your IT department and be sure, again, that your tracking scripts are being used appropriately across all web-based properties. And this way you know that your pages are being tracked and you can understand who has viewed them and when. And if you're using Eloqua, be sure to use blind forms wherever and whenever possible to help make connections between anonymous cookie IDs and email addresses. And be sure to start treating active users differently. It's very important because inactive users not only take up space, they also throw off reporting when included in the initial email sends. So now moving on to mobile, one of the things we want to, again, we've mentioned earlier is we say that mobile is now the first screen. It refers to specific email clients like the iPhone or Android, but also where users are opening their email. If they're using the Yahoo Mail app on their phone, for example, that counts as a mobile open for iPhone. This also includes tablets like the iPad. Desktop shows any email client open on a desktop application. That means any email client that required you to install software. If you're using a Mac, for instance, that could mean Apple Mail. And on a PC, that might be Outlook. Webmail, by contrast, though, means you're using an email client within a browser. So logging on to your Gmail account or using Outlook.com falls under the webmail category. And the position of the top 10 email clients here that I'm showing have remained relatively unchanged since December 2015, with Windows Mail and Windows Live Mail trading the 9 and 10 spots here in July. Apple iPhone, Gmail, and Apple iPad continue to dominate the top 3 spots. So when it comes to design, it's important to understand your options as well as the differences between the responsive and hybrid design. So responsive emails use tables and images to make the content flow across different screen sizes by using what's called CSS or cascading style sheets to change the width or the fixed width of tables and images between the desktop and the smaller screens. Whereas hybrid coding still uses fluid tables and images. However, hybrid tables and images are fluid by default. So instead of using CSS to adjust between desktops and smaller screens, hybrid coding favors the Microsoft conditional comments to restrain fluid tables on larger screens. Of course, each has their own drawbacks, like responsive design isn't supported everywhere. If you have a large number of contacts, using Gmail, for instance, They do not fully support styles and therefore can cause your emails not to render properly. Hybrid design can also be complicated. So especially when you start dealing with column layouts, things tend to get a bit tricky. Hopefully this, I'm sure this sounds all a little confusing, but it doesn't have to be, and it's not as bad as it seems. And this is certainly where Astadia can help. There are some mobile design guidelines. You want to make sure that you're concise in your message. And again, being clear and providing a single call to action, usually in the form of a button. Make use of white space to allow for your email to breathe. Using a minimum size font of 13 pixels and single column format when and wherever possible.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah.
again, I'm going back to your how people decide to open your email. Uh, is that 1.2 time frame more common in a mobile environment or more common in a desktop environment?
Well, it's really just it's both, to be honest with you. And I think 1.5 seconds is some people it's going to be a little bit longer, and some it's going to be a little shorter. So you've got to make sure that you're able to catch the attention. Again, going back to that screen and making sure that you're looking at the various pieces that make up an email, and that's why testing is critical. And making sure that you can use those various pieces and understand them a little bit more as you're going through. Again, only testing one piece at a time in your emails and not changing too much because that's really where it's going to make a difference.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And so again, here's another free tip when we talk about responsive versus hybrid mobile email design guidelines. Litmus is always a good source. So there's a blog here for understanding responsive and hybrid email design. So this will help you understand a little bit more about the pros and cons around responsive design. And another free tip, again from Litmus, specifically talking around the Microsoft Outlook rendering guide. And every email client has different guidelines, so be sure to do your research and understand what they are. Again, Microsoft Outlook versus Gmail versus Fluid and Design. So with that, we wanted to take a minute to share with you a special offer from Astadia on how we can help. Greg, did you want to talk through that?
Oh, yes, I'll be happy to talk through this.
Great.
Affiliated with this series of webinars, we're offering a what we're calling our email marketing maturity kickstart package, and we believe that this package can really help you improve your ROI by looking at all 6 of those attributes on the email marketing maturity model and helping you understand kind of where you are in each one of those 6 phases so that you can begin creating strategies, tactics, or perhaps even looking at new technologies that will help you move along those attributes into that winner circle that that Chris mentioned earlier. If you want more information, my email contact information is there at the bottom of the slide. Please feel free to send me a note, and we can have a discussion about that.
Great. Thanks, Greg. And so now we're going to move over to Q&A. I don't know, Greg, if there's any questions that have come in from the audience. Greg, are there any questions that have come in?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there's one that came in at the very beginning of the webinar, and the question was simply, you mentioned that you might be sending out too many emails. The question is there like an ideal number of emails that could be sent out?
Well, it really just depends on what your offer is and your database, right? So and your reputation, something to think about as well, because you don't want to send out 100,000 emails all at once, because that's going to more than likely flag your email service providers and recipients like Gmail and Yahoo, and even some of the organizations that you're working with when you're dealing with B2B. Because most companies and organizations are using software and services to identify the emails and the number of emails and flow that are coming in. So depending on those numbers that you send out, if you're sending a large number to any particular company, that could cause some red flags. So that's one area where you really want to make sure you understand the number of emails you're sending out, especially when you're dealing with specific organizations and/or domains. But at the same time, just because you have these contacts doesn't mean that you should be sending them every email that goes out your door, or excuse me, or out your computer. So you want to make sure that you're understanding their behaviors and what is it that's causing them, what are their interests, what pages have they looked at, what have they downloaded, what activity have they done, what information have they shared with you, and of course, when was the last time that you've actually interacted with those individuals. So a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of variations and a lot of points to make sure that you understand when you're dealing with sending out emails.
Okay. All right, good. We have one more question, and the question is, can you go into a little bit more detail about what a DMP is? I just want to, alert everybody on the webinar that we are planning a series of webinars around DMP. But Chris, if you could just talk a little bit about it, that would be
Sure.
great.
Sure. So the DMP is this data management platform which does just that. It manages your data. And when we talk about your data, we're talking about implicit, explicit data, all of the information about you as an individual that you may have in various sources. So again, when we talk about your first party and your second party and third party data and offline systems, you're taking all of that information and putting it into importing it into a DMP, where it's then massaged and matched against all of the information so that it's identified, so that Christopher Besgen, you can identify that he's working with Astadia, that he's visited the website, these websites or this website, and he's interested in technology, and that he's got he works with Astadia, and that he's got a budget of X. So all of these various pieces are going to be coming together. So then you can start looking at your data more clearly and understanding the information that you have. For instance, when you take this data and put it into the DMP and match it up against everything, it allows you then to say, okay, I'm trying to understand that my best customer spends an average of X dollars a month. Show me other people, that have a spending quality or behavior like that. So building those like models, so that then you can market to those people specifically, and even the individuals that don't have an email address, as you're working with some of these other systems where you can bring that third-party data in to again complement your existing data. So it's important to understand that you're putting this data into this centralized source that's allowing you to make sense of it and make better decisions leveraging that data. Hopefully that explains a little bit more.
Yeah, and we will go into great detail in the upcoming DMP webinars. Chris, we got one more question. When you talk about list testing, the question is, how large should your test sample be? Is there a minimum sample size?
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you've got, if your list is 1,000, you want to try and make sure that you have a larger number. So usually the split is a 10-10-80 split. So you'll do 10% in your A/B split, another 10, for A, 10% for your B, and then hold off on which one is going to win. Making sure that you've got the ability, again, that you've got numbers behind that. So usually we're talking about in the thousands. Hopefully, it's the smaller emails that or smaller sends that's where it's going to be a little tough to understand the differences and the winners.
Okay, very good. We don't have any more questions in the queue, Chris, so I'd just like to thank everybody for joining the webinar today, and be on the lookout for an email very shortly that will provide links to the recorded versions of these webinars.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks, everyone.